Today I want to show you a few examples of finished and fired pinch pots. So these are all from beginning students, and they were done earlier this year. And you can see that they're going to really run the gamut, but most of them are pretty small. Like if we look at the range of pot size. So this is a really nice little pinch pot, and you can see that this student put in a ridged edge here, and then also put in some sun details on the bottom. And I can tell that this student mixed their own glaze by kind of the variation in that orange. There's some pinks in there also. And this student chose to have the surface be glossy. This is a very similar size to that original orange one. Most of these students started off with clay that was about a pound to a pound and a half. And this student put some really interesting kind of ruffles around the edges, and then did a two-tone palette of primary colors, blue and red, and then the student chose to leave the interior white. So I really like that ruffled detail. I will say that this pot, you can't tell over video, but it's pretty heavy. If I was able to take a cross section of it, like I did in the previous video, you would see that there's too much clay on the shoulder. This student went for a rose color and did some really interesting texture with some tools. And then the inside looks more watercolored. This was a beginning student, and this student, this was the very first pinch pot this student ever made, and this student chose to do like a blue-green glaze, and there's some texture on it also. The texture you can add when the clay is really soft, or you can wait a little bit until the clay has firmed up and some of the moisture has left the clay, and then you can carve it. So this is an example of a student who chose to carve their clay, and I can tell because I know what the tool marks look like. But the student had to wait until she could carve out those pieces without distorting the wall. So she probably let her pot sit out in the air for a couple hours and then went back later and used a sharp tool and carved out those. I really like how the student chose to use color strategically to highlight the carving. Very nice beginning pinch pot with lots of detail. This is a student who I had this past year. I was incredibly impressed with her painting skills. Look at that. Really simple shape, but really beautiful watercolor skills. And so this is all all the painting, I'm sorry, is done with the watercolor palettes. This student, can you recognize the artist she was inspired by? She's inspired by Mondrian. And very simple, but really lovely piece. Look at that fun detail on the interior, and then some kind of watercolor details, and it looks like some drawing details. This would be more of an advanced student making a pinch pot. This is a much bigger pinch pot than the others we've looked at. This is probably 2 pounds of clay. This surface is like a variegated blue. We call that variegated blue. And so it's two-tone blue, and there is some texture that highlights that. And then really fun interior. All right, so those are some of my beginning examples of pinch pots.